representation, but it's completely irrelevant to what I'm saying. I love Dan's argument, but even if Dan was wrong about that, it doesn't change anything I'm saying. You know what I'm saying? I'm making an ethical case for freedom and peace. I'm saying a simple thing. Aggression is wrong. That's really what we're saying in the Live and Let Live movement. We love the phrase live and let live. It accurately reflects, there's my shirt there. It accurately reflects and describes how we should live on the planet. If we don't have a rule against aggression, no other rules are even possible. Think about it. If people are hitting each other over the head and aggressing on other people, it doesn't matter what other rules you're making. This rule against aggression is the most important rule. And if we can't agree on that, we're never getting to freedom or peace. Forget everything else you've ever heard. Throw it all out. If you're in favor of aggression, you're just not in favor of freedom. And you're certainly not in favor of peace. So in the Live and Let Live movement, and we're a global peace movement, the Live and Let Live global peace movement, we're all over the place. We have chapters already in Africa. We call them Team Africa. Team Africa feels like they are going to change the world and they're going to lead the world with the Live and Let Live movement, and maybe they will. I'm a big fan of Team Africa. I think it's time the African continent had some good luck and led the way, led the whole world. Wouldn't that be wonderful? It's where human beings started. We all came from Africa. This is part of the reason Live and Let Live is going to succeed, because it's not just rule number one against aggression to get to freedom and peace. That's true. We have an excellent argument here. And I'm completely bought into this rule, by the way. I can't think of any time when it would be okay to aggress against another person, ever. I'm 100% bought into this rule against aggression. This applies to everybody equally. It doesn't matter what color your skin is. Doesn't matter where you were born, what language you speak, if you're religious, not religious, rich, poor, don't care. Nobody gets any breaks. Doesn't even matter if you form a group. What if you get together with some of your pals and you form a group? Maybe it's a big group or even a corporation or even the biggest group of all, the government. Why should it make any difference? Why would we want the government to aggress? The reason we have the government is to defend us, defend our rights. It's our agent for that reason. We don't want it to aggress. That's an easy one. We should always win this argument. To disagree is to say I'm for aggression. Okay. But it's the second rule that the Live and Let Live movement has that's going to win the world. And the second rule is totally different than the first rule. The first rule is mandatory. We call it our legal principle. If you violate the aggression rule, sorry, you could go to jail. You should get a fair trial. But if it turns out you violated the don't be an aggressor rule, you can go to jail. That's mandatory. That's why we call it a legal principle. But the second rule is totally different. It's just a suggestion. That's why we call it the moral principle. And we explain it like this. Be a good human. Be a good human. Don't you think the world needs to hear this right now? I think so. This isn't mandatory. You don't have to be a good human. I'll defend your right to act any way you want to act, so long as you don't aggress. That's the one rule you don't get to violate. But I'm trying to convince you. And I'm not ashamed to say it either. I feel good about saying it. I'm trying to convince you to be a good human. And what does that mean? You probably already have a good idea what that means, but I'm going to break it down for you. We call these our aspirational values. Things like open-mindedness. Be open-minded on all issues at all times. And if somebody changes your mind on something, thank them. They improved you. Also, tolerance. Can you believe We're not tolerant of our fellow brothers and sisters, even though they live different. So what? People live differently on the planet. They love differently. They celebrate different holidays. They have different beliefs. They eat different foods. We should celebrate this stuff. Let's be tolerant of other people. We don't have to approve of their lifestyle, but let's at least be legally tolerant. How about voluntary kindness? Not forced kindness, the kind you're mandated by some law, rule, regulation, but real kindness, kind that comes from the heart for the right reasons. And civility. Do we have to yell at each other, call each other names, even if we disagree? Can't we disagree in civilized, respectable ways? Can't we be the adults in the room? We need to bring back civility. It's one of our aspirational values. And also, really, this might be my favorite, building high levels of trust with other human beings. All your best relationships are the ones with the high levels of trust. Relationships are important. Hopefully you figured this out by now. Even more important than money. And money's important. We want to raise standards of living for sure. But your relationships with other people, that's what life's about. And your best ones, those are the ones with the high levels of trust. And the worst ones, the low levels of trust. So as part of being a good human, we're trying to convince you, do things that build high levels of trust with other human beings. We're committed to the truth and facts wherever they go, even if it's something different than I believe right now. I'm interested in the truth and facts and rational thought. Why do we care about this stuff? We care about it because our overall goals here, the reason we're pushing be a good human is because, and we're not ashamed to say it, we're trying to optimize human happiness and well-being. Optimize human happiness and well-being and minimize suffering. That's why we're trying to convince you of this stuff everywhere, the whole world. We're a global community now. All these people saying, oh no, everything has to be local. We're afraid of everything global. They're all wrong. The world's changed. We are a global community now, whether you like it or not, or wish it was otherwise. Remember, something just happened in China and it affected the whole world. Things are going on right now in Ukraine. The whole world is literally at risk. There are people working on projects involving synthetic biology where they can create horrible pandemics, terrible viruses, deadly and communicable, for the evil purpose of killing people. This can happen anywhere in the world, and it's a threat to everywhere in the world. There's nukes all over the place. Imagine if one person right now, Vladimir Putin, wanted to, he could destroy the world. I'd say this is a problem. We got to deal with these problems. What happens when technology changes such that it's easy to build a nuke and everybody who wants one can get one, like every other technology that's ever been invented? Do we really think nukes are going to be different? I don't think so. We got to think ahead. And there's artificial intelligence coming. We may not be the smartest individuals, if you will, on the planet anymore. And think about the implications of that. These are global problems. If you're worried about climate change, this can't be solved at the local level. This is a global issue. They affect everybody. That's our community now. You guys are my neighbors. I'm in Chandler, Arizona, and you guys are in Africa, and you're my neighbor. We need to think differently. I love having discussion groups and talks about liberty and freedom and arguing about the finer points. This is fun. I love it. And there are rough edges. Let's not be, we're not pushing utopia here. There are hard questions that reasonable minds can disagree on. No question about it. But we got to get past discussion groups. We need action. All of these problems that I just mentioned are existential threats, and they're all coming. We have to deal with every single one of them. And there's more. There's all kinds of things in addition to that. We got to get our act together. We got to convince our fellow brothers and sisters of two things. Number one, don't be an aggressor. That's our legal principle. And we're not budging on it. We feel very strongly about it. We don't put up with aggression by anyone, any group, any time, any purpose. Don't care what you were thinking on any issue. We're against aggression. I feel good about that argument. And I hope I'm going to end early for questions. I hope somebody wants to argue with me on that. You want to be for aggression? Really? I mean, we may just have to agree to disagree, but that's okay. I believe there's more of us than there are of them. If I'm wrong about that, then we're really in trouble. But I don't think I'm wrong about that. I think there's more of us who will say aggression is wrong than of them who will say aggression is okay. So that's rule number one. We got to convince them of that. We have an excellent argument here. And then rule number two, look, we're just trying to convince you, to persuade you to be a good human. If we can get those two rules across, we can move from discussion groups to action. We can start uniting and changing the world. We can unite around this phrase, live and let live. It's known all over the world. There's already people all over the world who have T-shirts that say live and let live, that have championed the phrase, that as soon as you say live and let live, they'll say, yes, live and let live, I love it. The wind is at our back here. We have the best argument. It's very easy to explain. We're right about all of it. It does increase standards of living. All we got to do is deliver the message. We got to somehow deliver the message. And that's what Live and Let Live is an effort to do. It's an effort to deliver the most important message in the world. This is the most important project in the world, to deliver that message to our fellow brothers and sisters, the good people of the world, the ones who think aggression is wrong and think it's a good thing to try to optimize human happiness and well-being and minimize suffering. That's our crew. We got to get them this message. We got to get together and we need to change the world. And all these other messages are great, but we got to make it simple and understandable and easy for people to get behind. So I'm asking you, if you like what I'm saying, if you like what I'm talking about, join the Live and Let Live movement. Be part of this big solution. We haven't even kicked it off yet. And Team Africa has chapters in, I think, 10 different countries right now. Speak to Leon. He's involved. He's a friend of mine, and he's a Live and Let Liver. And I'm proud to have him on board. He's one of us. You should be one of us. liveandletlive.org. Check it out. This is an effort by very good people in the world. We're not trying to overstate the case. We're not arguing about things we don't need to argue about. Like, for example, why you think aggression is wrong. I have my reasons. You have your reasons. I don't care why you think it's wrong. If you think it's wrong, welcome to the Live and Let Live movement. We don't have to argue about if you think aggression is wrong because God says it's wrong, or because it's consistent with natural law, or because it's consistent with a social contract, or because Ayn Rand said it, or for some other reason. Who cares? We don't argue about that. If you think aggression is wrong, welcome to Live and Let Live. Why argue about that? Might surprise you to know we don't argue about government either. We don't get involved in that discussion. We don't care as long as government is held to the same exact standard as everybody else. If government doesn't aggress, I have no complaint. Think about it. Nothing else needs to be said. I don't argue about capitalism or socialism. Yeah, did I just say that? I did. I don't care if you want to be a socialist. Just don't be an aggressor is all I demand. So what does that leave us for capitalism? Well, if your idea of capitalism is crony capitalism, where people are being forced to do things, then that violates the rule. So crony capitalism is out. Free market capitalism, no problem. Socialism, if it's voluntary, it doesn't violate the rule. If people want to get their money, pool it together and pay bills out of a common pot, that's their right. Socialism should be protected if it's not violating the legal principle. But if it does violate the legal principle, like the variety where people say, yes, let's get together, pool our money, and then drag other people into this arrangement who don't want to be part of it, okay, well, that violates the rule. And that's why I'm against it. That's the only reason I'm against it. I don't have to get into discussions about economics with people. So we don't argue about any of these things. And in the hard questions where reasonable minds can disagree on questions, we let the local community resolve the issue and then let market forces sort that out. People can move and do business how they choose. Very easy. It's a simple message, and it's the message we need to deliver. So again, I'm going to end so you guys can ask some questions, but go to liveandletlive.org, sign up, become a member of the Live and Let Live movement. We're kicking off in March of 2023. We're intending to start a new holiday called International Live and Let Live Day, where we're all going to celebrate life, celebrate the fact that we're on the planet together, try to encourage each other to bring the best versions of ourselves forward, to really step it up and bring a new version of yourself. That's what Live and Let Live is about. We're encouraging people to be good humans. It's a huge part of our message. And when you put those two pieces of the puzzle together, the legal principle, rule number 1, don't be an aggressor, and the moral principle, rule number 2, be a good human. The suggestion to be a good human, every right to completely be a bad human if you like, just don't violate the legal principle. We got to defend that. It's like free speech. People have a right to say things we disagree with. That's what free speech is about. Same thing here. So anyways, I encourage you to go there, join a chapter. If there's not a chapter in your country, start a chapter. Yeah, be a leader. Still early in this movement. You could certainly be one of the leaders of the world's really only global peace movement. Can you believe that? There really aren't many peace movements in the world. And I don't know how else you could get to peace if you're not against aggression. So anyways, my name's Marc Victor. I'm easy to get a hold of. If you have questions for me, you want to reach out, you can contact me through my law firm website, which is attorneysforfreedom.com. My direct email is Marc, M-A-R-C, at attorneysforfreedom.com. And I'll be happy to answer any questions.
All right, thank you so much, Mr. Marc Victor. That was such an interesting session because you describe peace as something very relatable, something so simple, and not even in complex terms. Like, because most people, they do programs on what peace and all, but most times it's so complex. But you make it so simple and relatable. And yes, we are really very grateful. Please, if there's anybody that wants to ask a question, this time is still, you still have much time left. So please drop your question so you can ask. What do you feel about this piece? Like,